Alright, tonight your homework is a video about polynomials. So feel free at any time to pause the video and write down anything you want from the screen, or take some notes, do something, and then you can always restart the video. Okay? Alright, so first we're talking about polynomials, and what is a polynomial? What does it take in order for something to be a polynomial? So firstly, a polynomial cannot have any negative exponents for the variable. So for example, if you see something like x to the negative fourth, that is not a polynomial. Okay? Another thing that can't happen is you cannot have any fractional exponents for the variable. So that means I can't have like x to the 3/2 power. Because what is that? We don't know. That is not a polynomial. Lastly, we can't have a variable underneath a radical. So for example, it can't be the square root of x. That will not be a polynomial. Not polynomial. Okay? So what is a polynomial? It is something that has a combination of variables and coefficients that are being added or subtracted. Coefficients. Yep, I can't spell. Added or subtracted. So let's check some things. Is negative 3x squared a polynomial? So really I'm looking for, if I look back at number 1, can't have any negative exponents. Does this have a negative exponent? Nope, so we're okay with that rule. Can't have any fractional exponents. Is 2 a fraction? Nope, so we're okay there. And it can't have a variable underneath a radical. Is this variable under a radical? Nope. So since it passed all of these things, it doesn't make any of those true. That means it is a polynomial. What about this one? Do I have any negative exponents? Nope. Do I have any fractional exponents? Nope. And do I have a variable underneath any radical? Nope. So that means it is a polynomial. I can have a fraction out here. It just can't be an exponent. Okay, what about this one? Do I have any negative exponents? Yes, right there. So that automatically means it is not a polynomial. Okay? Naming polynomials. I can name polynomials based on how many parts they have, and each part that's separated by a plus or minus, so adding or subtracting, is called a term. So for example, here I have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, because it's separated by pluses and minuses. So here I have 3 terms. Here I have 1 term, 2, 3, 4 terms, because they're separated by pluses and minuses, adding and subtracting. So there I have 4 terms, and I can name them based on how many terms they have. This vocabulary you just have to memorize. So maybe take out a note card now and start writing it down. If I have one term, that's called a monomial. If it has two terms, that's called a binomial. If I have three terms, that's called a trinomial. If I have four terms or more, that's just called a polynomial. We don't have a special term for that. Okay? So the prefix here, like mono, means one. Nomial, or actually meal, just means terms. Okay? So if I go back, if I look at this three-term polynomial here, this is called a trinomial. This four-term polynomial we would just call a polynomial. There's no special word for more than four. Poly just means many, right? Many sides, or many terms. We can also name polynomials by the exponent. That's called the degree. And it's the exponent of the variable. Okay. So here, the exponent of the variable is right here. So this is called a degree 2. The exponent of the variable here is 4. So that's a degree 4. What's the exponent here? It's a 1. So that's degree 1. What about here? What's the exponent of the variable? There is no variable, right? So that's really like saying it's x to the 0 power. Because remember, anything to the 0 power, so this whole thing is just a 1. So this is a degree 0. There are no variables. Okay? And then we have special words for these as well. If it's a degree 0, that's called a constant term. And it's a constant because there is no variable. Nothing's changing. It's a constant number. It's always 5. If I have degree 1, so that's like x to the first, that's called a linear. It makes a line. If I graph it, it makes a line. Degree 2 would be something like x squared. That's called a quadratic. Degree 3, x to the third, is called a cubic. Degree 4 is a quartic. But really, you can just call this 4th degree. If it's anything above, you just say 5th degree, etc. But you have to know constant, linear, quadratic, and cubic. So if I go back and look, the problems above, this was a degree 2, which means it is a quadratic. This is degree 4, so you can either call it a quartic, or you can call it 4th degree. This is degree 1, which means it's linear. This is degree 0, which means it's a constant. The number 5 is constant, it's not changing. Okay? So then I can look at naming by the number of terms and by the degree. So let's first look at the number of terms. There's 1, 2, 3. So I can slide back up to my number of terms, and there's 3 terms, so that's a trinomial. So this is a trinomial. And then I'm looking at the degree. So what's the highest degree? So this is a degree 2. This is degree 1. I'm looking for the highest degree. So degree 2, which is called a quadratic. Okay? So let's look at the next one. I've got 1 term, 2 terms. So that's called a binomial. For the degree, I'm looking at what's the highest exponent. So here I have a 3, here I have a 1. So I'm looking at this one, which makes it a cubic, because it's the highest. Degree 3 is cubic. Okay, the next one I've got 1 term, 2 terms. So it's a binomial again. And I'm looking at the degree of the variable. There's a 1 there. So that means it's linear. Highest degree, right there, linear. All right, the next one. How many terms are there? Just 1. So that makes it a monomial, 1 term. And then the degree, right there. So it is a monomial, and it's linear. Okay? The next one, how many terms? 1 term. So that's monomial. And then what's the degree of the variable? Well, there isn't a variable, right? So it's a constant. Okay? Looking at the next one. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So 4 terms, remember. 4 or more terms is just called a polynomial. So this is a polynomial. Then I'm looking for what's the highest degree. There's a 1, 3, 2. So 3 is the highest degree. So when I have degree 3, that means it is called a cubic. So this is a polynomial that's a cubic, or you can say a cubic polynomial, your choice. Okay? That's it. If you need any more help, look at section 6.3 in your books. Review that, read through, see if you have any questions, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Good luck.